This coin almost ended up in the trash, but today, it's worth more than $1 million. Yes, a single 1982 Lincoln penny, the kind most people overlook, spend without a second thought, or even sweep off their kitchen counter, has shocked the entire coin world. Collectors can hardly believe it. Dealers are hunting for it. And ordinary people are discovering that what looks like a simple copper coin might actually be a $1 million miracle. Why did one ordinary-looking coin ignite such chaos at auctions across America? And more importantly, could one of these life-changing pennies be hiding in your own pocket right now? The story begins in 1982. It was a turbulent year for the United States Mint. The cost of copper was rising, and the government made a bold decision. For the first time since 1909, the metal composition of the Lincoln cent would be changed. The old, heavy 95% copper penny was replaced by a lighter, cheaper copper-plated zinc version. At first glance, the coins looked identical. But beneath the surface, the difference was huge, and this decision created one of the greatest coin mysteries of all time. In 1982 alone, the mint produced 7 different varieties of pennies. Some were made of copper. Some of zinc. Some carried a small mint mark. Some didn't. And mixed in with those billions of coins, a few extraordinary mistakes slipped through the cracks. These mistakes are what turn an everyday penny into a 6-figure or even 7-figure treasure. Most people never realize it. They spend the coin, they toss it in a jar, they let it vanish into history. And yet, for the few lucky collectors who recognize the signs, fortunes have been made overnight. Take, for example, the story of the man who stumbled upon a 1982 penny in his change, noticed something unusual, and brought it to auction. Collectors gasped. Dealers whispered in disbelief. When the hammer finally fell, the price wasn't a few $100s. It wasn't a few thousand. It soared into the hundreds of thousands, and some of these rare 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies are now valued at up to $1.6 million. The answer lies in one tiny detail that most people never checked. In 1982, the U.S. Mint was transitioning between copper and zinc planchets. Mistakes happened. A few pennies meant to be struck in zinc were struck in copper instead. Others carried the wrong design paired with the wrong metal. These mismatched combinations, called transitional errors, are so rare that collectors fight tooth and nail to own them, and the no-mint marked 1982 Lincoln penny, especially in its rare copper form, is one of the most legendary. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When news broke of these $1 million errors, collectors began raiding their penny jars. People dumped piggy banks onto tables, sorting through stacks of brown coins that suddenly looked like treasure maps. Dealers set up magnifying glasses at shows, examining date after date, hoping to find that one fateful strike. And stories began circulating of average Americans, everyday workers, retirees, even teenagers, who discovered coins in their pocket change worth more than their entire yearly salary. Imagine holding a penny that looks like every other, only to find out it could buy you a house, a car, and still leave you with enough money to never worry again. That's the power of this 1982 no-mint mark penny, but here's where the mystery deepens: not every 1982 penny is valuable. In fact, the vast majority are worth just 1 cent. The trick lies in spotting the right one, the error coin that slipped past the mint's watchful eyes. And if you don't know exactly what to look for, you could easily let a fortune slip through your fingers. First, you have to know the metal. A copper penny from 1982 weighs 3.11 grams. A zinc penny weighs only 2.5 grams. That small difference in weight can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million. Second, look carefully at the details. The no-mint mark varieties were struck in Philadelphia, and among them are both large date and small date designs. Some of these combinations are extremely rare, especially when struck on the wrong planchet. That's where the life-changing money comes in. You can't always spot the error just by glancing at it. Many of these rare coins look completely normal to the naked eye. Only by weighing them, inspecting them under magnification, or testing the metal can you uncover the truth. And that's why so many have gone unnoticed for decades. Collectors are shocked every time one surfaces. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these hidden treasures. And still, thousands, maybe even millions, of these pennies could be sitting quietly in jars, drawers, and pockets across America. But let me leave you with this chilling thought: every time you handle change, every time you see a 1982 penny, you could be holding a secret worth $1.6 million. It might look ordinary. It might feel ordinary. But hidden in that thin layer of copper could be a fortune that changes your life forever. Take every 1982 penny you find and weigh it. If it weighs 3.11 grams and has no mint mark, pay close attention. If it shows the rare small date design, you may be staring at one of the most valuable error coins in American history. Don't ignore it. Don't spend it. Have it authenticated. Because that tiny coin could carry the power to rewrite your future. This coin almost slipped through the cracks of history, a coin so ordinary, so unassuming, that millions of Americans spent it without a second thought. But one single mistake at the U.S. Mint in 1981 transformed this penny into a treasure worth up to $1.5 million. Imagine this: something you've tossed into a change jar, dropped on the floor, or even ignored at the bottom of your car's cup holder, could secretly be your ticket to financial freedom. Collectors know it. Dealers whisper about it. And those who've stumbled across it have been stunned into disbelief. The year was 1981. Ronald Reagan had just stepped into the White House. Gas was cheap, music was alive with disco and rock, and in Philadelphia, a series of Lincoln Memorial pennies were struck with no mint mark at all. On the surface, nothing seemed unusual. No flashy errors, no dramatic blemishes. Just another penny rolling off the presses. But what happened next changed the coin world forever, because some of these pennies weren't quite like the others. A shift in composition, a subtle flaw, an overlooked marking, or lack thereof, made them stand out to the trained eye. At first, nobody noticed. Pennies came and went like they always had. Kids spent them on candy. Parents handed them over at gas stations. But then, years later, someone looked closer. And what they saw left them breathless. This ordinary-looking 1981 penny was hiding a secret worth more than gold. It wasn't just a coin. It was a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. That's the question collectors began asking as whispers spread of shocking auction results. Imagine sitting in a crowded auction room, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. The bidding begins at a modest number, $10, $50, maybe $100. Then it climbs. 1,000. 10,000. And then, before anyone can blink, it crosses into the hundreds of thousands. People gasp. Collectors glance at each other in disbelief. And when the hammer finally falls, the world learns that a single penny has just sold for a life-changing sum. But here's the part that makes your heart race: this wasn't a coin locked away in a vault since 1981. It wasn't discovered by a billionaire or unearthed in some hidden government stash. It came straight out of circulation. An everyday coin plucked from someone's pocket change. You cannot afford to ignore your pennies. Because hidden among them could be one of these legendary 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln Memorial cents, the kind that sends shockwaves through the collecting world and turns ordinary people into millionaires overnight. It's almost invisible unless you know exactly what to look for. But once you see it, you'll never forget it. Collectors tell stories of sleepless nights, staring at magnifying glasses, combing through jars of coins, their hearts pounding with hope. Some find nothing. Others strike it rich. But the hunt never stops, because the reward is simply too extraordinary. But what happened next stunned even the most seasoned dealers. Word began to spread that a few of these 1981 pennies were different, not just because of their missing mint mark, but because of a subtle transitional shift. You see, 1982 was the year the U.S. Mint changed the penny's metal composition from mostly copper to copper-plated zinc. That change created confusion, and some coins from the year before were caught in a mysterious limbo. A coin that looks like every other penny on the outside, but when weighed or tested, reveals itself as a ghost from the mint's past. Dealers rushed to get their hands on these elusive treasures. The competition was fierce, the prices skyrocketed, and suddenly the 1981 no-mint mark penny was no longer a footnote in coin history. It became a legend, and the legends keep growing. One man in the Midwest found his in a box of old change his father had saved in the 1980s. Another collector uncovered one in a bankroll he had bought for just 50 cents. In both cases, those coins turned out to be worth hundreds of thousands. And whispers suggest that a few extraordinary specimens, those in near-perfect condition, untouched by circulation, could be valued as high as $1.5 million. Not every 1981 penny without a mint mark is valuable. The Philadelphia Mint struck billions of them, and most are worth just 1 cent. The key is spotting the difference. Condition, weight, and microscopic details make all the difference between a common penny and a $1 million miracle. First, examine the date carefully. The 1981 should be crisp, with no doubling or blurring. Next, look at the fields, the flat areas of the coin, for signs of unusual clarity or errors. Pay close attention to the edges. Some of these valuable pennies show subtle differences caused by die variations or striking issues. And perhaps most importantly, weigh it. A true copper penny from 1981 should weigh about 3.11 grams. But if you find one that's suspiciously light, or just slightly off, hold your breath. You may have uncovered a rare transitional coin. Collectors know that these tiny differences are the gateways to unimaginable fortune. One glance could be worth $1 million. And here's the part that keeps people up at night: most of these rare 1981 pennies haven't been found yet. They're still out there, waiting. You're emptying your pockets at the end of the day. A handful of change clinks onto the counter. You see a dull brown penny, its date reading 1981. You almost toss it aside, but something stops you. You pick it up. You check the weight. You examine the lettering. And then, in that breathtaking moment, you realize what you're holding isn't just a penny, it's a piece of history worth over $1 million, and that is why collectors, dealers, and dreamers never stop searching. Because the next legendary discovery could be made not by an expert, but by someone just like you. So the next time you see a 1981 no mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny, don't ignore it. Don't spend it. Don't dismiss it. Look closer. Because hidden in plain sight, inside that tiny copper coin, could be the key to a life-changing fortune. This coin almost ended up in a handful of pocket change at a gas station, but instead, it stunned the coin world when experts revealed it could be worth more than $1.5 million. The year was 1985. A time when pennies were everywhere, dropped on sidewalks, lost in couches, forgotten in coffee cans. Nobody paid attention to them. After all, they were just a cent. But one coin, one small Lincoln Memorial penny with no mint mark, would change everything. At first glance, it looked ordinary. Copper-plated zinc, Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, the memorial on the reverse. Millions of these rolled off the presses. But hidden among them was a mistake. A tiny, almost invisible difference that transformed an everyday penny into a treasure worth more than a dream home. Collectors were shocked. How could something so small carry such unimaginable value? How could a single misstrike from the mint lead to a coin valued at over $1.7 million? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in the Midwest, sorting through his change, spotted it. He didn't even realize at first what he was holding. The surface had a strange shimmer, a look that felt slightly off. And then he saw it: no mint mark. That tiny missing letter that should have told him where it was struck. Philadelphia. Denver. San Francisco. But there was nothing. Just empty space. To most people, it would mean nothing. But to an experienced eye, that blank spot was a flashing siren. A clue. A warning. A signal that this penny might not be like the rest, and he was right. When experts examined it, they were floored. The strike was unusual. The details on Lincoln's face were razor sharp, almost proof-like. And the missing mint mark? It confirmed what few dared believe. This was no ordinary 1985 penny. This was a rare variety, a survivor of a mistake that never should have left the mint. Dealers rushed to verify it. Auction houses whispered about it in hushed tones. Could this really be the coin they had only heard about in rumor? The one said to be hiding in circulation, waiting to be found, and when it finally hit the auction block, the bidding war was nothing short of explosive. Numbers climbed past tens of thousands. Then hundreds of thousands. And finally, as the crowd sat breathless, it shattered expectations, pushing toward a staggering $1.7 million. Collectors could hardly believe their eyes. A penny, a single cent, sold for a fortune that could change someone's life forever. But here's the part most people miss: the 1985 no-mint mark penny isn't just about one lucky discovery. There are more out there. Coins hiding in old coffee jars, tucked away in piggy banks, resting unnoticed in dusty drawers. And the difference between 1 cent and $1 million miracle comes down to spotting the tiniest of details, because you see, the US Mint made billions of pennies that year. Most of them are worthless, just ordinary copper-plated coins. But the rare no-mint mark pieces? They slip through like ghosts, invisible unless you know what to look for, and here's where the story twists again. For years, rumors circulated about why this coin existed. Some experts believed it was struck on leftover proof planchets. Others said it was an error, a forgotten die meant for collectors' sets that somehow entered circulation. But no matter the origin, the result was the same: a coin so rare, so valuable, that even seasoned dealers would drop everything to own it. Imagine the thrill of holding one. The weight of history and fortune resting in your palm. Knowing that a coin everyone else ignored is now your ticket to unimaginable wealth. But what happened after that record-breaking auction stunned even more people. News spread like wildfire. Suddenly, Americans everywhere were dumping out their jars of change. Families huddled around kitchen tables, squinting at pennies with magnifying glasses. Pawn shops saw lines out the door. Coin dealers couldn't keep up with the flood of questions. Could my penny be the one worth millions? One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle, and it set off a treasure hunt across the country. But here's the danger: most people don't know what they're looking for. They glance too quickly. They mistake ordinary wear for rarity. And in doing so, they let the real treasure slip right through their fingers. So let's get clear. If you want to know whether your 1985 penny could be worth a fortune, here's what you must check. First, flip it over. Look at the obverse, right under the date. Do you see a mint mark? Normally, you'd expect to see a small D for Denver. If there's nothing there, no mint mark at all, your heart should start racing. Next, check the strike. These rare examples often have unusually sharp details. Lincoln's hair, his bow tie, even the columns of the memorial on the reverse, they'll look crisper than the average circulation coin. And finally, condition matters. The higher the grade, the higher the value. A worn coin might fetch thousands. But a pristine, mint-state survivor? That's where the $1 million bidding wars ignite. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. They were stunned when more were confirmed. And today, experts believe there could still be undiscovered examples waiting to surface. Think about that. Somewhere in America, someone could be holding this exact coin right now, and not even realize it. The truth is, life-changing discoveries don't always come from treasure chests or ancient ruins. Sometimes, they come from the smallest, most ordinary things. A penny. A coin you've touched 1,000 times without a second thought, but when the right one appears, everything changes. This is why collectors never stop looking. Why they keep digging through rolls, peering at dates, chasing whispers of hidden fortune. Because they know that history has a way of hiding miracles in plain sight. So tonight, when you empty your pocket change, don't ignore the pennies. Don't shrug them off as worthless. Because one of them, one forgotten coin from 1985 with no mint mark, could be the miracle you've been waiting for. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when it was finally recognized, it shocked the entire coin collecting world, because this tiny copper-colored penny sold for a fortune that most people can't even imagine. A single 1990 D Lincoln Memorial penny, worth up to $1.8 million, yes, you heard that right. A penny that could have been hiding in a coffee can, a junk drawer, or rattling around inside someone's car cup holder, is secretly worth more than a brand new luxury home. the answer lies in a mystery at the Denver Mint. Completely ordinary. The kind you find in pocket change every single day. But among those billions, a tiny handful emerged with a shocking error. A mistake so subtle, so easy to miss, that almost no one noticed it for decades, and here's where it gets even stranger: this error was connected to a set of proof dies meant for collectors. Dies that should never, ever have been used to strike circulating coins. Somehow, a small batch of Denver pennies was struck with details that didn't belong there. And when the first collectors spotted the difference, their jaws dropped, but the real story didn't explode until much later. Because for years, these coins passed through hands unnoticed. Cashiers counted them. Kids tossed them in piggy banks. Entire rolls sat untouched in bank vaults. Nobody realized what they were holding. Until one surfaced at auction, and when the hammer fell, the price stunned even veteran dealers, hundreds of thousands of dollars, for a single penny. But then came the discovery that blew the lid off everything: another specimen, even sharper in detail, sold for nearly $1.8 million. Collectors were in disbelief, dealers scrambled to examine every 1990 penny they could find, and suddenly, a coin once dismissed as ordinary became a life-changing treasure. It's not just the year. It's not just the mint mark. It's the combination of die errors, minting anomalies, and condition that turns an everyday cent into a millionaire's prize. Look closely at the 1990 D penny. Most will appear normal, a tiny D mint mark beneath the date, Lincoln seated proudly at his memorial on the reverse. But the rare ones carry something extraordinary: a misplaced detail, a difference in strike, a fingerprint of history left behind by the minting process itself. And here's the chilling part. Most people never see it. They spend the coin. They overlook it. They let it slip through their fingers, unaware they're holding a fortune. You pick up a penny off the sidewalk, thinking nothing of it. Later, under the right light, you notice a strange doubling near the lettering, or a mint mark that doesn't look quite right. You check a reference guide. And suddenly, your heart races. Could this be one of the rare million-dollar varieties? Collectors describe the moment as electric. The instant when pocket change becomes a miracle. When a penny transforms into something worth more than they ever dreamed. But here's the twist: even seasoned coin hunters sometimes miss these details. Some of the most valuable pennies were discovered not by experts, but by ordinary people. A retired man rolling up his change. A teenager sorting through coins for a school project. A cashier who took the time to glance at her drawer, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. These everyday people suddenly became part of numismatic history. They joined the tiny circle of discoverers who uncovered one of America's most valuable modern coins. A single 1990 D penny, gleaming under the auction lights. Collectors holding their breath as the bidding soars. 50,000, 100,000, $500,000. The room grows tense, and then, silence as the final bid lands, nearly $1.8 million. For 1 cent. It's stories like this that drive collectors into a frenzy. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on these elusive coins. And ordinary people are left wondering, could I have one too? Here's the secret. Examine every 1990 D penny you encounter. Look for signs of doubling in the date and lettering. Study the mint mark carefully. Flaws in its placement or shape could signal an error. Condition is everything. The higher the grade, the higher the value. Coins in pristine, uncirculated condition are the ones that reach astronomical prices, but don't make the mistake of dismissing a coin that looks off. Some of the most valuable pieces looked flawed or strange before being authenticated. And those tiny imperfections? They were the very reason the coins were worth a fortune. Check your change. Every penny, every time, because once in a lifetime, a discovery happens that changes everything. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. The 1990 D Lincoln Memorial penny, ordinary to most, but to a trained eye, a potential treasure chest. Hidden errors, forgotten history, and the power to turn a single cent into nearly $1.8 million. So the next time you hold a penny in your hand, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it into a jar without a glance. Look closer. This coin almost ended up in the trash, yet it shocked the entire coin world by being valued at nearly $2 million. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than an ordinary penny. A coin you might toss in a tip jar, leave in your car's cup holder, or forget at the bottom of a drawer. But this 2005 Lincoln Memorial penny carries a secret so powerful that it has turned everyday pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors couldn't believe it when the first discovery was made. A man sorting through his change found what looked like a common copper-plated penny. But when the details came to light, dealers realized this was no ordinary coin at all. It was an error, a mystery, and a miracle, all struck into a single piece of metal. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin bore no mint mark. That tiny missing letter, which most people would ignore, turned out to be the detail that made it priceless. In 2005, pennies were struck at multiple mints: Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, each leaving its mark. But this one carried no sign of origin. No tiny D, no small s. Just a clean, unmarked face, hiding a story worth nearly $1.90 million. Collectors were shocked. How could a modern penny, barely 2 decades old, command the kind of value reserved for ancient rarities? The answer lies deep within the strange and unpredictable world of minting errors. But before we get there, imagine this. You're holding a handful of change after buying a coffee. You're ready to spend it without a thought. But one of those coins is quietly whispering history. One of those coins is secretly worth a fortune. That's the magic of this penny. Dealers rushed to confirm the truth. Under magnification, they noticed irregularities. The strike was unusual. The missing mint mark wasn't just a random fading of metal, it was a full absence, a clear sign of a minting slip. Something that should never have happened. And because of that, its value skyrocketed into the millions. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. One collector's story spread like wildfire. He had kept the coin in a jar for years, never knowing its potential. When he finally brought it to an appraisal, the experts froze. They knew immediately this was a ghost coin, a vanishing error that almost slipped through history unnoticed. But the story didn't end there. When the coin finally went to auction, the bidding war was fierce. Collectors from across the globe battled for possession of this unassuming penny. Prices climbed higher, and higher, and higher. Until, at last, it crossed the unbelievable mark of $1 million. But here's the twist: this wasn't the only one. A handful of other 2005 no-mint mark pennies began to surface, each carrying subtle variations, each adding fuel to the fire of mystery. Now imagine the heart-stopping moment when an ordinary person finds such a coin. The disbelief, the shock, the sheer thrill of realizing that something you thought was worth 1 cent could change your entire life. But what happened next left collectors speechless. Experts began studying the coin's metal composition, its weight, its strike. Every detail mattered. Some examples showed doubling on the date, others bore tiny misalignments. Each flaw made the coin even rarer. Dealers whispered about secret stashes, about hidden rolls that might still be sitting in circulation, waiting to be found. The very penny that could pay off your mortgage, erase your debts, or fund your dream retirement, could be hiding in your pocket right now. Collectors were captivated. This was no longer just a coin. It was a symbol. Proof that hidden treasures still exist in plain sight. Proof that miracles don't always come in gold or silver. Sometimes, they're wrapped in copper and zinc. And still, the mystery deepened. Why did this error occur in 2005? Was it a deliberate mistake? A mint worker's oversight? Or was it simply fate, striking metal in such a way that one penny became priceless? But the most shocking detail is this: not every no-mint mark penny from 2005 is worth a fortune. Only those with the right traits, the flawless absence of a mint mark, the crisp strike, the rare error indicators, carry million-dollar value. Others may look similar, but fall short. That's why so many collectors miss the real treasure. Imagine the heartbreak of selling a coin for $1, when it was secretly worth $1.9 million. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another person unknowingly spent theirs at a gas station. The difference? Knowledge. The ability to spot what others overlook. So how do you know if you have the legendary 2005 no mint mark Lincoln Memorial penny? Look closely. The date must read 2005, perfectly struck. The space where a mint mark should be, under the date, must be completely blank, with no trace of a faded or worn letter. The coin must show sharp detail, and in some cases, collectors look for unusual doubling or striking errors that push the value even higher. Never assume a coin is ordinary just because it looks familiar, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a coffee shop tip jar, but instead, it turned into a discovery worth millions. A 1999 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, hiding in plain sight, nearly tossed aside as just another piece of pocket change, but what collectors uncovered about this coin stunned the entire world. Imagine this, a simple penny, the kind you've handled thousands of times, sitting at the bottom of a change drawer. But what if I told you that one of these 1999 pennies, struck without a mint mark, has sold for a price so outrageous, so unbelievable, that dealers had to check twice to believe it was real? We're talking about a coin worth up to $2 million. It begins with a mystery at the US Mint. 1999 was a year of transition, a year when new technology and new dies were being introduced, and in that chaos, mistakes happened, coins slipped through the cracks, and one of those errors created a treasure. Now here's where the story takes a shocking turn. Collectors noticed something unusual. A handful of 1999 pennies surfaced without a mint mark, but there was something even more bizarre: the details on Lincoln's face, the sharpness of the memorial building on the reverse, and a strange doubling effect on the lettering, all signs of a hidden error. And in the coin world, those tiny imperfections can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. But what happened next stunned even veteran dealers. One of these coins went to auction, and as the bids climbed higher and higher, jaws dropped across the room. This wasn't just another rare penny, this was a piece of American history. The gavel fell, and the final price shocked everyone. A coin worth just a penny, sold for nearly $2 million. Collectors were speechless. Why would anyone pay that much for a coin so common in appearance? The answer lies in rarity, mystery, and desire, because when a coin exists in such tiny numbers, when its story is wrapped in secrecy and accident, it becomes more than just currency. It becomes a legend. But here's the part that sends chills down your spine: many of these coins are still out there. Yes, you heard that right now, as you're listening to this, one of these 1999 no mint mark pennies could be hiding in a forgotten piggy bank, a jar of spare change, or even in your pocket. And here's what makes this coin different from the rest. In 1999, pennies struck at the Philadelphia Mint were made without a mint mark, but certain errors, like double dies, off center strikes, and sharp details that shouldn't exist, separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. It's those tiny details that send collectors rushing. One mistake, invisible to the untrained, can turn a penny into $1 million miracle. Think about that. A penny you've ignored your whole life could be the key to financial freedom. People dream of winning the lottery, but in the world of coins, the lottery can be sitting quietly in your own home, waiting to be noticed. But the story gets even stranger. One collector nearly missed his chance. He'd found an old jar of coins left behind by his father. For years, it sat untouched in the basement, but one rainy afternoon, he poured the pennies onto the table, and there it was. A 1999 no mint mark penny with an odd doubling in the date. At first, he thought nothing of it, but when he brought it to a dealer, everything changed. The dealer's hands shook. He looked at the coin under a loupe, then again under a microscope. This isn't just rare. This is one of the rarest I've ever seen. That coin later sold for a staggering price, forever changing that man's life, from pocket change to life-changing fortune, all because he decided to look closer. But here's the warning you need to hear: most people miss it. They glance at their pennies, see Lincoln's face, see the memorial building, and toss it aside. But the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth millions is hidden in those tiny details most people never notice. Start with the mint mark. On a 1999 penny, Philadelphia coins typically have no mint mark. That alone doesn't make them rare, but here's the key: look closely at the date, check for doubling on the 1 and the 9. Examine the word Liberty. Look for sharpness and detail in the Lincoln Memorial that seems unusually crisp, and most importantly, study the coin's condition. coins in pristine, uncirculated condition are worth dramatically more. Some 1999 pennies with double die errors have sold for thousands, but the rarest, flawless examples, tied to this mysterious no-mint mark run, are the ones that can climb into the millions. Dealers are still searching, collectors are still hunting, and the 1999 no-mint mark penny remains one of the most electrifying mysteries in coin collecting today. So tonight, when you get home, dump out that change jar, look through the pennies one by one. Check the date, check for doubling, check for errors, because hidden in that pile could be the very coin that changes your life. A simple penny, a coin so small and overlooked, becoming the ticket to financial freedom, a story you'll tell for generations. This isn't just collecting, this is history, this is destiny.